I've used the Nikon Zf extensively for well over 6 months now, and it has become one of my favorite cameras in recent memory. It does so many things right. It's almost perfect. And in today's video, I'll cover what I love, what I don't love, and what I think would make this actually a perfect camera. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to see more great photography content. So let's start with what I love. And the first thing, and probably the best bit about this camera, is just how it looks. It is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is a camera that really banks on its sex appeal, being based on the Nikon FM2, and it's honestly impressive just how authentic the design feels when compared to the film camera that it's based on. I guess it's a little bit bigger, but fundamentally they've done a fantastic job with making this camera look and feel like a proper retro camera. And the Zf isn't actually the first time that Nikon has tried to draw inspiration from its past to make a retro-styled digital camera. So the Nikon Zf came out in 2013, and while I don't own one of those, despite everyone telling me that I should buy one, it's nice to see Nikon continuing to create a truly retro camera that feels like it has proper heritage. Next up is the build quality. So this camera is so bloody well made. From its magnesium alloy body, which is thoroughly weather sealed, to its nice solid brass dials. It truly feels like an absolute joy to use. And the controls, while certainly different to the traditional PASM layout that many Nikon users would be used to, are simple and easy to get the hang of. And the analog dial experience feels very similar to the X-T5, and I do feel like the Zf overall kind of feels like the full frame X-T5 that we never got. But a sexy camera that feels nice in the hand is useless if the photos it takes suck. And thankfully the Zf is no slouch there either. So it is fast. It features the same X-Speed 7 processor and autofocus system as the far more expensive and very professional Z8 and Z9 cameras, and this makes using this camera a total breeze. It acquires focus rapidly in all lighting conditions, it has sensational low light performance, and it is overall extremely snappy to use. From the menu system to playback and more, everything feels quick, responsive, and modern, and I love the touchscreen UI as well. The EVF in this camera is really nice and bright, and I've taken this camera around the world and I've shot nearly 10,000 photos with it, and at that time it has been a fantastic shooting experience. One that has really been enhanced by using manual lenses. Because the Zf specifically has a manual focus assist tool that honestly feels like black magic. And that is the manual focus confirmation. So when using compatible lenses or lenses with a chipped adapter, you get the focus dot to show up for eye detect. So it'll follow someone's eye, and as you turn the focus ring, once the eye is in focus, the box goes green. And what you can do is you can actually hit the zoom button. So I've mapped it to be the OK button on the back here to quickly punch in, and it makes nailing focus wide open on lenses like this Voigtlander 40mm f1.2 actually like a total walk in the park. And it means that using vintage glass in this camera feels like you've unlocked an entirely new dimension and breathed new life into these amazing old vintage Nikon lenses. And I actually have a video on all of my favorite vintage Nikon lenses if you'd like to check it out after this one. And like I said before, all those lenses work great on the Zf. And Nikon has also been really great at slowly issuing software updates that fix little annoyances, like finally being able to cancel out of a zoomed in image while using the focus assist by just half pressing the shutter button. Don't know why this wasn't there from the beginning. Before you had to always press the same button you used to zoom in to zoom out. If you want to make sure your composition is correct, it just makes it a little bit more awkward to use. But thankfully that has been fixed. Also, the battery life, which is surprisingly excellent. So while the official SIPR rating for this Zf is just 380 shots, I regularly got probably, I would say, almost double that. Often around 1,000 shots per charge while in Europe. I think the most I ever got was almost like 1,200 shots on one battery, which is really impressive. And that's stamina that's bettered only by DSLR Nikons that I've tested. And as far as mirrorless cameras go, the Zf and the Fujifilm X-T5 both have some of the best battery life that I've ever tested. The EN EL15C battery is actually shared with the Nikon D850 as well, which makes both cameras a lovely dual companion for events, where the benefits of the mirrorless ZF complement the benefits of the DSLR perfectly. Now that we've covered what I love, let's talk about the stuff that I don't. So for starters, I hate the fact that the SD card slot is on the bottom of the camera. And while I love having dual recording, I really wish it had just like a traditional dual SD card slot on the side like the X-T5 does. I mean, that camera is noticeably smaller, still just as retro inspired, and it manages to fit it in. And look, I know they wanted to keep the retro aesthetic by not making the side panel, you know, have that there. And I think mostly it's probably just so that you could add a grip to it. But honestly, like adding a flip screen like this instead of a much better for photography tilt screen feels like a really weird design oversight that could have easily been rectified, especially considering like this camera should be a photography first camera. I like it can do video, but do not buy this camera to shoot video. I'm glad that it has dual recording capability, but that's only for photos. So weirdly, like all Nikons, it can't dual record video, no matter what format video you're shooting. And that just makes me not confident using this as a video camera. And personally, I love my Lumix cameras much more for video, so I won't cover the specs of this camera's video performance in this review, as I had no interest in filming with the ZF. It's weird, like Nikon is trying to position themselves as this video capable brand. None of the modern Z bodies can dual record. This is probably something that can be fixed in a future update, so I'm not going to be too hard on them for it. And as a photo camera, this thing is fantastic. Next up on the thing that I don't love is the ergonomics. Now, I know that there's going to be some of you in the comments ready to roast me for buying a retro themed camera, praising how authentic it looks, how sexy it is, and then complaining that it's uncomfortable. But truthfully speaking, cameras from the 70s, which the ZF faithfully emulates, sucked to use too. They're simply not ergonomic. This camera doesn't really have much of a grip, and I see people online adding these stupid little grips onto the ZF, which definitely help, but honestly make the camera even heavier than it already is. And I think if you're going to go through the effort of adding a grip to this thing, just buy the Nikon Z5 II. That camera is a ZF in an ergonomic modern body with 2 full-size SD card slots, and it's better in almost every way except for the aesthetics. Now, that's not to say that this camera is terrible to use. Personally, I don't mind using this camera without a grip. With small lenses like the 40-1.2 or the 40-f2, or any of those little special edition lenses, I think this camera works just fine. But if I see so many people online putting like the 135 Plena or like a 24-70 2.8 on this camera, and it's just, it looks, first of all, it looks ridiculous, and second of all, it's so uncomfortable. Like, it's just, I use the 24-120 f4 on this camera, which I would say is probably the absolute upper limit of size for what lens suits this camera without a grip. And the one good thing with the 24-120 is you can hold it kind of by the lens itself, and then it becomes okay. But I tried out the Z5 II in person, and that camera is so much more comfortable in the hand and so much easier to use, especially for like professional work, that like, unless you really like the aesthetics, just get the Z5 II instead. I think it's a better camera for most people. But the aesthetics lead me to the point that I put in this video's thumbnail, and that is that this camera is almost perfect. Almost. See, Nikon did an amazing job with the design of the body. They did an amazing job with these 2 special edition lenses, and then it feels like the designers went out for lunch and never came back. So the problem is that Nikon doesn't seem to care about delivering more lenses that actually look right on this camera. Thankfully, Voigtlander has stepped in and made some lenses that really belong on the ZF, and for the record, like, I think the 40-1.2 and the ZF is like one of the most gorgeous camera combinations that exists right now. But stick any modern Z-mount lens on here and it just looks ridiculous. Like this photo of my grandpa wearing a pair of over-the-top Oakley sunglasses. I'm not saying you can't use modern Z-mount lenses on this camera, obviously you can. But putting a lens like a 24-120 or something on here, it feels like a really weird clash in aesthetics where you've got modern lens design and like an older style camera. Look, I don't know. Personally for me, I don't think it looks that great. And I find it really funny when I see people putting like the 35-150 Tamron on this camera, and it's like if you're gonna go through the effort of using such huge lenses on this thing, just buy a Z5 II or buy any other modern Nikon that has an actual grip and a proper pro style body. This camera is really suited for manual focus lenses and adapting vintage glass and all that kind of stuff. But talking about adapting vintage glass, I mean, surely like, old AI and AIS lenses would suit this camera perfectly. And yes, they definitely do. They look great. And the manual focus assist tools on this camera are great as well. But due to the flange distance, the adapter needed for F to Z is big, bulky, and quite ugly. Despite Nikon trying so hard with the aesthetics of this camera and the special edition lenses like the 28 and the 40, Nikon's own FTZ adapter, which costs a pretty damn hefty penny, has zero support for that focus confirmation green dot with vintage Nikon glass. Bokeh Therapy made this really great video on F to Z ZF adapters.
Criteria 6 is manual focus subject detection. Not just that you get the white boxes appearing around faces and eyes and punching in goes automatically to those boxes, but those boxes need to turn green after nailing focus. I thought this was a flagship feature of the ZF and the first party FTZ2 should work seamlessly with it. Nope, FTZ2 doesn't show any green boxes for focus confirmation with manual lenses.
But there's like a really weird convoluted method that you have to use where you like have to stack two different adapters in order to get that focus confirmation dot to show up.
But it does work with TT Artisan's M to Z 6-bit adapter. You'll need an F to M mount dummy adapter first. The green box will show up along the arrows in the bottom left corner and a dot when you've nailed focus.
And that FTZ adapter doesn't have support for screwdriver autofocus lenses either, which made up a large portion of Nikon's vintage catalog. So lenses like the excellent 180 f2.8 or the 35 f2 or the 16 2.8 are manual focus only on the ZF, whereas on DSLRs like the D850, they work flawlessly with really fast autofocus. And like, at least, if we're talking about retro cameras, the DF could natively mount literally every single F-mount lens, including pre-AI lenses with no adapters needed. So the vintage appearance of that camera was matched by truly amazing backwards compatibility. Whereas with the ZF, it feels like Nikon could have done just a little bit more to make this camera properly perfect and not just almost perfect. Now, I know that I've been a little bit negative, but the reality is that the ZF is genuinely a very good camera. And if you're the kind of person that loves to take photos of your camera more than the things in front of you, then like many Leicas, this camera will be absolutely perfect. But for almost everyone else, you should probably just buy the Z5 II, as not only is it cheaper, but it's functionally a much better option. However, if you're the kind of person who thinks with their heart, and I want to say I do sometimes do that as well, and you want a goddamn sexy camera, then at least the ZF has the firepower to back up its crazy good looks. And it is most certainly not just a pretty face. So what do you think? I mean, do you love the ZF or would you rather the Z5 II? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week and have a great day.